The When It Was Cool Podcast Network. Retro pop culture. Informative and fun and family friendly. Support us on Patreon at whenitwascool.com.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to a When It Was Cool retro movie review. And my gosh, have we got a great classic movie to review today. This is right up my alley in every way, shape, or form. From 1973, Enter the Dragon, starring Bruce Lee. I have inexcusably, throughout the history of the When It Was Cool website, only reviewed one Bruce Lee movie ever. That is unconscionable, unforgivable on my part. So let's go to the biggest Bruce Lee movie ever, Enter the Dragon, to talk about here on today's show. This movie is something else. For 1973, it has everything you want in a kung fu movie. It is ridiculous. It is over the top. It presents martial arts in a way where they're still mystical and magical, and UFC hadn't shattered the illusion of what a real fight looks like yet. Bruce Lee is like almost supernatural in his abilities, yet it's big budget, more so than his other various Hong Kong movie fare was. This one was made in the United States. This was going to be a big presentation for him. He already had a lot of exposure here in the United States through The Green Hornet and his Hong Kong movies being translated here to the United States. But this was going to be the one that made him a movie star. He was 32 years of age, and he died very shortly thereafter. A matter of fact, he didn't even get to see this film released. He died before it came out. It is part of the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress, signified so as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. I would say yes, yes, and yes to all the above. This is Bruce Lee in his finest hour. Who knows what he could have done from here, where he would have went. He had a good another 10 to 15 years probably of making top martial arts movies. I mean, that carries him. If you think about it, just ponder on this for a minute. Okay, Bruce Lee died July 20th, 1973 at the age of 32. Okay, he would have been 42 years old in 1983. He would have been 50 years old in 1988. For a movie star, that's fine. A male movie star especially, double standard that exists, but still. He would have been a movie star up to the Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone era, certainly Chuck Norris. In fact, he and Chuck Norris crossed over just a little bit. Imagine this. Just imagine had Bruce Lee lived. Bruce Lee in Predator. Bruce Lee in, I don't know, some version of Rocky. Who knows? Who knows what would have happened had Bruce Lee lived? He was off to a roaring start here in the United States. He was super charismatic, super skillful, and he was something else. Here we have Enter the Dragon. Enter the Dragon was a 1973 martial arts action film directed by Robert Klaus. The film stars Bruce Lee, John Saxon. Yes, John Saxon, who played the heavy in every movie ever. I think he was in something like 200 movies where he was always the tough guy. He was in everything from westerns. He was one of the tough guys in Kung Fu, the TV series, which again, originally was an idea by Bruce Lee that John Carradine got cast in because, racism. I mean, that's right. Anyway, Jim Kelly was in this movie. Yes, Jim Kelly, from Black Belt Jones. Remember that? Bolo Young. Good Lord, Bolo Young was still around up into the Jean-Claude Van Damme era. He was the dude. Bolo Young was the dude that looked like Ricky Choshu, except he had the giant muscular chest, like his pecs were bigger than the rest of his body. That guy. Okay, he's in this. What a film! So it's on something now. What is this? Netflix, I guess it's up on now. I was shocked to see it. You don't see it actually very often. Yeah, Netflix. It's up on Netflix, everybody. So go watch Enter the Dragon. It went on to, it actually premiered in Los Angeles on August the 19th, 1973. So like almost 1 month to the day after Bruce Lee died unexpectedly, mysteriously. So that helped a lot with the hype of it. This film went on in 1973 to make $350 million worldwide. That is the equivalent to $1 billion movie today. This was essentially on the scale of like your Marvel Cinematic Universe movies as far as how successful it was. The budget was less than $1 million, $850,000. It has earned 400 times its budget. It is one of the most profitable films of all time. It is certainly far and away the most profitable martial arts movie of all time. Enter the Dragon, according to Wikipedia here, is widely regarded as one of the greatest martial arts films of all time. In 2004, it was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry, which I just mentioned. It is among the first films to combine martial arts action with spy film elements and the emerging blaxploitation genre. Its success led to a series of similar productions combining martial arts and blaxploitation genres. That's where you got Black Belt Jones there. Its themes have generated scholarly debate about how they reflect the changes taking place within post-colonial Asian societies following the end of World War II. Enter the Dragon is also considered one of the most influential action films of all time, with its success contributing to mainstream worldwide interest in martial arts, as well as inspiring numerous fictional works, including action films, television shows, fighting games, comic books, manga, and anime. It is an extraordinarily influential movie. Now then, before you get too fired up, as Tommy Rich would say, by today's standards, it's still pretty cheesy. Okay, look, best case scenario, Bruce Lee, he's very, very, very charismatic, super athletic. Oh my God, the dude has like 0.00% body fat. He's also a little over the top. He's a little cheese-worthy. This is 1973, so you got to kind of add the fact that it's a little dated. The special effects, not the greatest in the world. But holy smokes, this is still a great movie for 1973. It does absolutely combine, like it's like James Bond meets, your typical Hong Kong action movie, kung fu genre films, which were extremely popular back then. The martial arts still had this very mystical connotation to it. Bruce Lee had highly popularized martial arts and practicing martial arts in the United States. And, it wouldn't be until like 20 years later for the world scene that was all pretty much nonsense. But for the time, Bruce Lee was something else. He was literally an action movie star. I mean, everything about him was that. You can talk about your Arnold Schwarzeneggers. You can talk about your Sylvester Stallones. You can talk about Chuck Norris. You can talk about all these guys, but Bruce Lee is the epitome, the embodiment of an action movie star. Now, the names in this movie are not exactly the most inventive. Bruce Lee plays, his character's name is Lee. He is a martial artist who instructs pupils at the Shaolin Temple. Again, this is the idea that he had for Kung Fu, that David Carradine became a priest of the Shaolin Temple. This is an ingredient in many, many, many martial arts movies, is somebody from the Shaolin Temple has gone somewhere else and dishonored the temple. And therefore, they've got to be taught a lesson. Or somebody's family has been dishonored. Usually a member of it killed. Oftentimes a woman, a sister, a mother, a grandmother, an aunt, something of that nature. This movie also has that. You've also got some sort of over-the-top hoodoo, bullshido, martial arts instruction along the way where they rattle off their personal credo. This movie definitely has that. Half the lines in this movie, it seems like, were taken from the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. So Bruce Lee, as Lee, is a martial arts artist who instructs pupils at the Shaolin Temple, and he is given an assignment to infiltrate Han's Island. Now, this is not Han Solo. I recently had a conversation with No Friender of the Thrash Metal Show about Han Solo. That's the deep stuff we talk about right there. Nevertheless, Lee, it's easy enough to remember that's going to be Bruce Lee. I always love these old movies like this where they just randomly, like some government spy agency from some, who knows whose government this is. I mean, it's an English-speaking gentleman that recruits Bruce Lee, and he's like, oh, Pip, we're going to have you, a random martial artist who teaches pupils at the Shaolin Temple. Pip, you're going to infiltrate this island because not only is Han a renegade Shaolin priest who is doing naughty things, he's also committing crimes. And he's doing so, cheerio, on this random island which no government has control over. Ha ha. He is kidnapping people and doing evil things, human trafficking, opioid production, kidnapping, Pip murder, and holding questionable kung fu tournaments. Will you help us, Mr. Lee? And of course, Bruce is like, oh, of course. So, also, in amongst this cast of characters is John Saxon, who I mentioned earlier. His movie name is Roper. That's a 1970s TV cop name. Know who could solve this crime? Roper. He's a martial artist and a gambling addict who is invited to Han's Island. Anna Capri is Tanya, not the Tanya I'm married to. This is Tania. That is Han's secretary who coordinates the ladies on Han's Island. Yes, he is, in fact, involved in human trafficking. Shikin as Han. He's the evil renegade Shaolin priest, voiced, by the way, in the United States by none other than Kay Luke, who was Master Po on Kung Fu, who played, unironically, a Shaolin priest. Han is a crime lord and renegade Shaolin monk who organizes a martial arts tournament with hopes of recruiting talent to his underground drug operations, as one does. He has an artificial left hand that he can attach various weapons, including a claw and a set of blades. Yes, that's also a requisite thing for Kung Fu movies, is to have a wacky weapon of some sort. A flying guillotine, a set of Wolverine claws, a iron hand. Those sort of things. That's what Han's doing there on Han's Island. Bob Wall is O'Hara. He is Han's bodyguard, noted for a facial scar crossing over his left eye. Now, Han's got a backstory. He was responsible for an attack on Lee's family and his sister. Wall previously appeared as a different character in Way of the Dragon and would later appear as a third character in Game of Death. Yes, they liked Bob Wall as a big American tough guy. A heavy, they used to call him. Angela Mei Ying was Su Lin. She played Lee's sister, who, of course, rather than being accosted and fornicated upon by Han's people, committed suicide in order to prevent her most horrible impending assault. Thus, Lee's going to get to avenge that. That is apropos of nothing in this movie, by the way. That is a total sidebar storyline that was utterly unnecessary. Lee needed no other way to get on this island. He was already recruited by the possibly British government, who knows, to get on this island. But they threw in the dead sister as well. Yang Ji as Bolo, Han's buff bodyguard. Wait a minute. That's Bolo Young. Yes, Yang Ji, better known as Bolo Young, a Chinese former competitive bodybuilder, and Lord, he liked to work them pec muscles. Peter Archer as Parsons. He's a New Zealand bully. He's also a comedic foil. He doesn't really have much input in this deal other than the bully gets defeated, which is another martial arts trope. And finally, Jim Kelly as Williams, an African-American martial artist who's invited to Han's Island. He and Roper were fellow veterans that served in Vietnam. This was Kelly's breakout role. And actually, of all the people in here besides Bruce Lee, freaking Jim Kelly was great. He was like, to me, the guy who stole this movie as far as the good guys team goes. Now then, due to the success with his earlier movies, Warner Brothers began helping Bruce Lee with the film in 1972. They brought in producers Fred Weintraub and Paul Heller. The film was produced on a tight production budget of $850,000, and as we already said, boy, did they make their money back. The screenplay was titled originally Blood and Steel. That is a much worse name. The story features Asian, white, and black heroic protagonists because the producers wanted a film that would appeal to the widest possible international audiences. The scene in which Lee states that his fighting style is fighting without fighting is based upon a famous, that was a pretty good Bruce Lee impression right there, if I do say so myself, is based on a famous anecdote involving the 16th century samurai Togsuhara Bokoden. This also comes from the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, which I'm sure is where he was quoting it, along with the pointing the finger at the moon. Don't look at the finger, or you'll miss all that heavenly glory. Yeah, that's Bruce Lee too. John Saxon was a black belt in judo and Shotokan karate. He studied under Grandmaster Hidetaka Nishiyama for 3 years. In negotiations, his agent told the film's producer that if they wanted him, they would have to change the story so that the character of Williams would be killed, not Roper. They agreed, and the script was changed. Oh, John Saxon throwing his weight around there. He's like, nope, not dying. You'll have to kill the black guy. And that's what they did. Yep, Williams died. Spoiler alert. Rodney Tarkington was originally cast in the role of Williams. So who is Rodney Tarkington? I should know that. Let's find out here. He was an American stage, film, and television actor. Oh, you don't say. Really? What'd you do there, dude? He had guest appearances on several things, including The Man from U.N.C.L.E., The Andy Griffith Show. Oh, my gosh. Listen to this little liner note here. Tarkington was also the first credited black actor to appear on The Andy Griffith Show and the only African-American on the show to ever have a speaking part. What? I did not know that. Racist Andy Griffith? Good Lord, I did not know that. I love The Andy Griffith Show. I guess I'm exposing my racism here. Good grief. That's absolutely unacceptable even for that year's show. Good gosh. How did I not ever know that? Well, we certainly don't condone anything like that. Rodney Tarkington, good for you. Speak his name, we'll know the name Rodney Tarkington from now on. I've got to seek that episode out somewhere. May have to do a review of that. However, he unexpectedly dropped out days before production was about to begin in Hong Kong. Producer Fred Weintraub knew that karate world champion Jim Kelly had a training dojo in Crenshaw, Los Angeles, so he hastily arranged a meeting. Weintraub was immediately impressed, and Kelly was cast in the film. It was a good idea. The The success of Kelly's appearance launched his career as a star after Enter the Dragon. He signed a 3-film deal with Warner Brothers and went on to make several martial arts-themed blaxploitation films in the 1970s. Jackie Chan has an uncredited role, or actually several roles, as various guards during the fights with Lee. However, Yuen Wah was Lee's main stunt double for the film, responsible for the gymnastic stunts, such as the cartwheels and jumping backflip in the opening fight. And boy, will we talk about that in just a minute. Sammo Hung also has an uncredited role in the opening fight scene against Lee at the start of the film. He is a pretty well-known Hong Kong actor and martial artist as well. A rumor surrounding the making of Enter the Dragon claims that actor Bob Wall did not like Bruce Lee and that their fight scenes were not choreographed. However, Wall has denied this, stating that he and Lee were actually good friends. So Bob Wall, which one was he? He was, he was the dude that was in several of these movies, right? I already forgot. Oh, yeah, O'Hara. He was Han's bodyguard with this facial scar. He was the sister, the one that caused the sister's death. I was looking at Robert Wall's thing here. Apparently, he got into it with Steven Seagal. Sounds to me like he was kind of like the Carl Gotch of these martial arts movies, in that, if he didn't like the way things are going, we could do this the easy way or the hard way. Says here, Wall is particularly famous for his public rivalry with Steven Seagal, which provoked a series of challenges between the two from 1988 to 1992. It started when Steven Seagal made disparaging commentaries about Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, and other American martial artists in interviews, culminating in 2 articles in Black Belt magazine where he claimed he would fight to the death anybody who believed they could defeat him. Steven Seagal, back before he got fat, he was going to fight people to the death with his peaceful martial art of Aikido, which has no offensive moves in it, only defense, because Aikido is the peaceful martial art. Says, fight to the death, Steven Seagal. I've got some martial arts background too, Steven. Indignant at Seagal's slights of Lee and American martial arts. I'm also fat too, so there maybe we could go sumo, he and I. Hooah! Indignant at Seagal's, I'm on a roll today. I'm like, let's just burn it down. Indignant at Seagal's slights of Lee and American martial artists, as well as by his boasts, Wall gathered a group of martial artists willing to accept it. Oh my God, so my style will face your style. Let me gather up some students, and we're going to come to Los Angeles and fight in the street. Dude, let's do it. They were nicknamed the Dirty Dozen in reference to the 67 war. I don't even care if we review Enter the Dragon now. This is awesome. This sidebar is awesome here. The group included, good Lord, get a listen to this cast of characters. Benny the Jet Urquidez, Bill Superfoot Wallace, all these people can kick your ass. Howard Jackson, presumably not Howard Johnson, the hotel magnate, but Howard E. Jackson, a former world kickboxing champion and a world Muay Thai champion, a world-rated karate point fighter, and a world-rated boxing contender. Roger Carpenter, an English neurophysicist and professor of oculomotor physiology. What the hell is he doing? This can't be the right person they've got linked here. It says, Roger Carpenter's Wikipedia page says, and it's got this nondescript older white guy who looks fairly fit, I'll give him that. Died in 2017. He is a University of Cambridge neurophysiologist. I guess he's going to... It's Dr. Death. And it says absolutely nothing in his Wikipedia biography about having any martial arts skill at all. Although it says on a Cambridge website, Carpenter described himself as philosopher, mad scientist, and artist extraordinaire. Robert Wall's gathering up quite a collective here. Alan Steen, another American martial artist practitioner and the father of American Taekwondo, so you can thank all the McDojos for him. Jim Harrison, an American poet, novelist, and essayist. I guess he's going to read Dr. Seuss to this kung fu fight we're going to have with Steven Seagal here. I do not like green eggs and ham. Oh, Wall's got Steven Seagal in a body slam. Oh, and they got Gene LaBelle in there too, of course. Oh, I'm so glad I clicked on the Robert Wall Wikipedia link. I don't even know where I got to, and does it even matter at this point? Filming. Bring it together, Carl. The film was shot on location in Hong Kong. All scenes were filmed without sound. Dialogue and sound effects were added or dubbed in post-production. Bruce Lee, after he had been goaded or challenged, fought several real fights with the film's extras and some set intruders during the film. This is like the pioneer days of wrestling. It's like, well, we can do this the easy way or the hard way there, Jim. All right, grab your best hold. And like, we're filming a movie here, guys. Could we take two, The scenes of Hans Island were filmed at a residence known as Palm Villa near the coastal town of Stanley. Let's skip down to the critical reception here. I haven't even reviewed this film yet. And I just finished watching it, and it was great. Upon release, the film initially received mixed reviews from several critics, including a favorable review from Variety magazine. The film eventually went on to be well received by most critics, and it is widely regarded as one of the best films of 1973. Critics, I'm almost tempted to see what the other films of 1973 are, but we got to finish this show at some point. Critics have referred to Enter the Dragon as low-rent James Bond thriller. Yeah, that's not unfair. A remake of Dr. No with elements of Fu Manchu. J.C. Mackett III of Pop Matters wrote, "Of course, the real showcase here is the obvious star here, Bruce Lee, whose performance as an actor and a fighter are the most enhanced by the perfect sound and video transfer. While Kelly was a famous martial artist and a surprisingly good actor, and Saxon was a famous actor and a surprisingly good martial artist, Lee proves to be the master of both fields." Many acclaimed newspapers and magazines reviewed the film. Variety describes it as rich in the atmosphere, the music score as a strong asset, and the photography as interesting. Backhanded compliment there, probably. Additionally, the New York Times gave the film a rave review. The review stated, "The picture is expertly made and well meshed. It moves like lightning and brims with color. It is also the most savagely murderous and numbingly hand-hackered, not a gun in it, you will see anywhere." That's right. There wasn't a gun in the whole thing. They even explained that away. They even took the time in the narrative note to WWE to explain why there were no guns here. There was a reason. The film currently holds a 94% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, so yeehaw. Enter the Dragon was selected as the best martial arts film of all time in a 2013 poll of The Guardian and The Observer critics. Not the Wrestling Observer, but The Observer from the Guardian Media Group, a British newspaper. Cheerio. The film also ranks as number 474 on Empire Magazine's list of the 500 greatest movies of all time. Well, there you go. All right, so I don't even know how I can possibly review this movie now, although the opening scene is quite spectacular. Because the first fight scene of the movie, it opens with a fight scene. If you watch nothing else of this movie, watch Bruce Lee versus skinny fat Genichiro Tenryu. This is great. Bruce Lee is standing there, not any fat to be found. Like you couldn't even, like if you took a piece of bacon and laid it on Bruce Lee's shoulder, like the fat would just melt off the bacon and you would be left with nothing but grease and meat, because that's how ripped Bruce Lee was. And then you had skinny fat Genichiro Tenryu who's going to fight Bruce Lee. Now then, I've watched wrestling for a long, long time, and I know a jobber when I see one. and Skinny Fat Genichiro Tenryu is about to get it handed to him. We get a slow spin kick by Skinny Fat Genichiro Tenryu. Bruce Lee then punches him in the toe. That is a thing that happened. Maybe Filthy Tom Lawler has used this technique in the UFC before. I don't know. But anyway, Bruce Lee punches him in the toe. However, in spite of all this, Skinny Fat Genichiro Tenryu does some random backflips. Of course, as we just learned from the Wikipedia page, well, that was a stunt man, but still, wow, there you go. Go get it, Skinny Fat Genichiro Tenryu. There's a kip up by Bruce Lee, followed by a punch. A series of hip tosses by Bruce Lee. This is better so far than any Raw match you're going to see this year. Bruce Lee wins with the old Adrian Street crucifix pinfall into an armbar submission. Skinny Fat Genichiro Tenryu taps out UFC style. I quit. That's what he does. Then the Shaolin master, the priest, they're never called priest in this, but anyway, the teacher has watched this fight. It was a sanctioned fight, by the way. They weren't just randomly fighting each other. They were sparring, I suppose. And he walks over and goes for a walk with Bruce Lee. And they have a conversation. And this is, I wrote down the exact quote. I see your skills have transcended the mere physical and are now into the realm of the spiritual. I have several questions. So do I, Shaolin priest dude. Transcended the physical and are now into the realm of the spiritual. Like you watched him beat Skinny Fat Genichiro Tenryu with a series of hip tosses, and that suddenly makes him a spiritual guru of some sort. Wow. Okay, awesome. Bruce Lee then goes into this Q&A session with his teacher using quotes almost exclusively from either the Tao or the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. And basically from there, I didn't take any more notes on Enter the Dragon. No, they were a bunch of fight scenes. They go to an island. They're on a boat at one point. There's some hijinks that happen. There's a big dinner. There's some skinny sumo wrestlers basically just rubbing each other's skinny bodies against one another in the midst of this buffet. There are some dangerous women bodyguards who throw spikes at balloons or apples or something. I don't remember. The bad guy Han is very Dr. Evil in all of his machinations of this here tournament. They have this tournament once every 3 years where he randomly calls a bunch of people together and has them fight in karate on his island. Kung Fu. I know they're different. I'm a black belt. I know the difference between Kung Fu, karate, and all I know. And Taekwondo and Tang Soo Do are not either Kung Fu or karate. They're a Korean martial art. So you go all kinds of places from there. It's not Ketchikan American style, nor is it jiu-jitsu, neither Japanese nor Brazilian. Look, I can hold my own in martial arts discussions, as you can see here. Hold my own. Anyway, we never get to see who wins the tournament. They don't go through the whole tournament. They end up, Bruce Lee is seen enough, and he contacts the mysterious government. Cheerio, they send in the helicopters. And so he sends Morse code. I kid you not, he breaks in with a cobra. He catches a cobra and turns it loose in an office, scares the people out. They literally throw a chair through the window. Bruce Lee goes in, gets on the radio and goes clack, 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 clack. And I don't know what he sends on that Morse code, but something to the effect of, oh my God, I couldn't eat my steak because of these two skinny sumo wrestlers rubbing against each other. There's a dude here with bigger pecs than I've ever seen in my life. There's people kung fu fighting. Ha, these cats are fast as lightning out here on this island. Come get me. Bring me out. But unfortunately, the vaguely British colonel, he doesn't get the message in time, and so Bruce Lee and Tom Saxon have to fight their way out. They defeat the entire island of people. The entire island. Han and Lee get into a fight where we get to finally see Han use different implements on his hand, including a Wolverine razor claw, which he scratches Bruce Lee in very ineffective manner. And the scratch marks on Bruce Lee look terrible. They could really have upped that budget, just a little bit more to have got some special effects makeup. But nevertheless, they basically took toenail polish and drew 3 streaks across Bruce Lee, and he looked awesome, standing there with fingernail polish and 3 strikes across his body going, whoa! And look, it was just as awesome as you would expect it to be. 10 stars. Thank you.
Excuse me, please. Let's don't talk negatively. Speaking of winners, surprise, surprise, WhenItWasCool.com is your home for retro pop culture articles and podcasts. To all our patron supporters, this is for you, Fannie Mae. Solid gold just like you and me. Family friendly and fun. WhenItWasCool.com.